All right, y'all, we got another hot one coming out. So hot that one of these speakers actually has their own hot sauce. So, hi Terry. We got Bri Kimmel coming out and we got CJ McDonald. Who are these people? So Bri Kimmel's a VC, but not your average VC. One, she's hilarious. Two, she's actually fun to be around. And three, she actually knows something about Gen Z and the depths of fintech, which is a perfect person to interview CJ McDonald, the CEO of Step, who just 8, 9, I don't know, we're 4 days into this, so I have no idea how many days. Some number of less than 10 days ago announced raising $300 million, and we're gonna find out what they're gonna do with that money and also how they actually got to this point, because they've done a lot of very counterintuitive things to get here. So with that, let's get a little energy going for these two and bring them on out. CJ, Bri?
All right. CJ, I'm looking forward to this morning.
Likewise.
Thanks for joining. So I promised you all the buzzwords. We're going to talk about the creator economy. We're going to talk about celebrities and influencers. We're going to talk about crypto. And we're going to talk about the next generation, which is something that you and I both share a deep passion for. When I started Work Life in September of 2019, we wanted to rethink what venture capital would look like for the next generation. And so our investors include the founders of Twitch, Spotify, Cameo, YouTube. We have gone all in on the creator economy, and so we've made investments both in fintech and tools to make starting a new company possible. And lately we've been spending a lot of time in generative AI as well.
Yeah.
And it's great to finally meet you in person. I've been a longtime fan of Step's journey. I'd love to kick things off and just give everyone more context on the history of Step. You've been working on it for 4 years now, well ahead of the curve of this new wave of building for the next generation and for raising from influential folks who are not traditional venture capitalists. And so I'd love to learn a little bit more about the vision, 4 years ago when you were just getting started.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me, and it's great to be here. Money20, how are you? Let's go. How are you guys? So I'm CJ McDonald, and as Bri mentioned, I started working on Step about 4.5 years ago. And for me, it always bugged me that schools don't teach kids about money, families don't talk about money, and money's really evolved and changed over the years. And when you think about it, we live in a digital world where money hasn't really kept up, in terms of some of the digital trends. And so most people get their first bank account before they turn 18. Most people get their first debit and credit card before they turn 18. Most people get their first job before they turn 18. And so we wanted to build a platform around financial services that really focused on Gen Z and the younger generation and jumpstarting their financial journey at an earlier age and growing with them each step of their journey in life.
Yeah, that's awesome. And one thing that's really stood out with the company is across the board, there's this theme of culture.
Yeah.
It's how do you really educate and build a culture around investing? How do you identify influential people that are the types of folks that can encourage, the next generation to think smartly about their money and how they make money? When you were first getting started and when you were first thinking about distribution, how did you come up with the early, what now seems more mainstream, but at the time was a very early concept of pulling in YouTubers and TikTokers and all types of influential folks that aren't traditional investors?
Yeah, culture is really important. We're building a brand, and we're building a brand for the next generation. And they really want to associate with brands that they respect and look up to and admire. So all along, we wanted to be aspirational and really lean into culture. And when you think about it, we wanted to go where they were already at, which is on social media.
Yeah.
And so, they're browsing TikTok and Snapchat throughout the day, and they're looking up to these TikTokers and YouTubers. So for us, we wanted to provide content that was organic and entertaining and educational, where we could really lean into our customer base and meet them and educate them on in our world, financial services.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and one insight that I've noticed over the past few years is the fact that almost everyone has investor in their Instagram bio, whether you're a DJ, an athlete, whatever sort of creative skill set you have or however you spend your day hours matters less and less. Everyone has this desire to be some sort of investor.
Yep.
Initially it starts with more public market investing, but I'm seeing a lot of athletes and celebrities and folks that can be qualified investors start to do more in the private markets and going as early as pre-seed and seed stage as well, which is awesome to see from a financial literacy perspective. Were there certain people when you were getting started, like these are our ideal angels that we'd love to see, these are creators that we have to have involved in the company? Like, how did you refine what that persona looks like? Like, who is the most influential for the next generation?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we've got unique set of demographics and customers, right? We've got teenagers and we've got parents. And we have to relate to both of them. And first of all, the way that a teenager consumes media and where they consume media is very different than how an adult consumes media. Teenagers are on TikTok and Snapchat. Adults are on Instagram and Facebook. So, for us, we really wanted to connect with our user base. And so we went out and did a bunch of partnerships with TikTokers and YouTubers that, could relate to our demographics. So we did a partnership with Charli D'Amelio, who is very large on TikTok. At the time when I met her, she was 15. She had about 40 million followers on TikTok.
Wow.
She now has 150 million. She just turned 18, so we've had a partnership with her for a couple of years now. But for her, she was one of the largest social media influencers out there. And she was 15 years old, which is in our demographic. And, everybody knows who she is. And so we wanted to, partner with her because financial literacy was also really important to her. And, she could help tell our story. And then we've got parents. And so we did a bunch of partnerships and, brought investors on our cap table that could relate to parents. So, Will Smith is an investor, Justin Timberlake's an investor, Steph Curry's an investor. And all of the folks that I just mentioned are great actors and musicians and athletes, but they're also parents. And so they can relate to what we're doing, from a parental standpoint because they want what's best for their kids as well. So we were very strategic and thoughtful about our cap table and figuring out, people that believed in our mission, believed in our team, and wanted to help bring it to life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's an interesting insight there where, historically when we think of young people making money, it's usually working an hourly job. Historically, you'd work at a mall, you'd work at a restaurant, you'd kind of do this part-time work paycheck to paycheck. But now we're seeing all of these new classes of work that can be done on the internet, and parents are trying to keep up. Like if you have a younger age, someone in high school or college who's a Twitch streamer or who is making videos on TikTok, who can earn 6 figures before they leave the house, like that's a very unique position that we're currently in. And this next generation is, I believe, going to up-level all of us because they're learning to make money in large sums of money sooner than we would have when we were in high school.
And they have more access too, right? I mean, with a phone, you can create content, on YouTube or TikTok. And, we're in a world where a video could go viral, unexpectedly. And so many people have gotten lucky or been at the right spot at the right time, which has changed their life and, established a career for many people. But to your point, this next generation is a generation of hustlers. They're innovators. They don't want to be told what to do. They want to kind of blaze and pave their own path. And so I believe you need to lean into that. And, that's what we've tried to do.
Yeah, we have a mantra internally where we say take kids seriously, and I think that extends to take young adults seriously too.
Yep.
Where the things that seem silly today become the jobs of the future. I grew up playing video games, and I now joke with my dad where, he was always trying to turn off the TV and discourage that, but now we're starting to see Twitch streamers that are making over 6 figures doing what they love. And so I think anything will be possible in the future, and that's really accelerated by the work that you're doing and, all of these resources available on the internet.
Yeah, and gaming has gotten, so much bigger from when we grew up as well. There's a lot of overlap with the demographic that we're targeting too.
So when you talk about education, I know this is something that's foundational to everything you do at Step and every decision that you make. How do you think about balancing that education between, the next generation and also educating their parents at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, again, I mentioned schools don't teach kids about money and families don't talk about money, and financial literacy is really important. So we're a very mission and impact-driven company. Our mission statement from day one has been to improve the financial future of the next generation. And we want to provide financial access to responsible products and try to teach them right from wrong and establishing a strong financial foundation. So we really lean into it. We've got a 6-course curriculum that we just launched around financial literacy that we offer to students. And we try to embed it into our product every single day to, like I said, help them make more responsible financial decisions.
Yeah. One value that we both share is challenging the norm. I had mentioned we opened Work Life Studios in Silver Lake, and we're opening one in Brooklyn. And the vision for that space is to bring together all different types of people. And so we had hosted Kian and JC's birthday, very popular YouTubers. I think we're the first VC firm to have 5,000 people wait outside to get into our space. And we want to keep doing these creator-focused events where we recognize that there's a lot of people online that have distribution, but the thing that's currently missing is a space for them to meet their fans IRL. And so we want to keep really unpacking what does education look like for the next generation, what does building culture look like for the next generation, and who are people that we should really have in our close inner circle and a part of our orbit. When you think about that challenging the norm, what have been some new and experiential things that you've designed specifically with the pandemic in mind?
Yeah, I mean, look, one of our core values at the company is break the norm, right? And it's not break the rules, it's break the norm, because we truly want to innovate, we want to do things differently, and we want to challenge, this next generation to be smarter with money. I mean, an example of that is our card is a secured card that helps you establish and build credit before you turn 18. It's the only product in financial services that does that. And it took a lot to get there. The easy thing would have been to just launch a standard checking account and debit card like everybody else, but we truly wanted to innovate and break the norm. And we came out with a unique card structure to kind of support that. And that's one example, but every day we're trying to challenge ourselves to be better. We're trying to provide great products for our customers. And we truly want to innovate and do things uniquely to put our customers in the best interest to succeed.
Yeah, that's great. And we had talked about the next extension of that education, which is crypto.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about the crypto offering that you have today and where you see this going in the future?
Yeah, so we're super excited. We just launched crypto 2 weeks ago. So you can now earn rewards in crypto on our platform. You can also buy and sell crypto. We're in the very early innings of digital currency, and I've been a longtime believer in blockchain as a technology and as a platform. Bought my first Bitcoin in 2012 for $47. And at the end of the day, it's really providing that financial education and access to the next generation to be able to learn about crypto and to be able to access crypto in a responsible fashion. So, we just launched it. We're getting a lot of positive feedback and excitement around the feature, and we'll continue to lean into it.
When you think about crypto education for the next generation, do you envision this long-term being more of a guided course and it's almost like cohort-based learning? Or do you envision this being more like designing it for almost the crypto investors that are coming from a Reddit or from another place where they're plugged into mainstream culture and what stocks are trending?
I mean, for us at the end of the day, we just want to provide, products that are responsible and products that can help, enable you to make smart financial decisions. And investing's not for everybody, crypto's not for everybody, but at the end of the day, if and when you want to, dabble or start to learn about it, we want to be there with you in the journey, and we want to, help you and enable you to, again, make smarter, responsible, financial decisions. And crypto's very new, and a lot of people don't understand it. So I encourage people to, do your research and learn and kind of understand the highs and the lows, because it's obviously been a very volatile market over the course of the last few months.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and it's been the last few weeks have been tough for a lot of companies, and whether it's consumers investing in crypto and realizing the volatility of that market, or early stage technology companies that are now figuring things out. You have a wealth of knowledge. You've been working on this for 4 years. How have you adapted for this new world that we're entering into, and what is some advice that you have for founders?
Yeah, I think, look, the markets have been, really volatile over the course of the last 6 months. And, we made some changes to our plans moving forward, just being thoughtful and responsible. I've always wanted to control our own destiny and not be influenced by what's happening in the public markets or, what's happening in the world. I can only control what I can control, which is building a great product, building a great team, building a great brand. And, I think a lot of people have adapted their plans over the course of the last, several months, given what's going on in the world. I think some people haven't.
Yeah.
I think we'll see a lot of consolidation across companies over the course of the next 12 to 18 months. But for us, and to answer your question about advice, just you really have to understand your business and where you're at, and make sure that you're being thoughtful and responsible of what your future plans are. Because I think a lot of companies are going to have trouble raising money over the course of the next 12 to 18 months. It was a lot easier over the course of the last 2 years. And I think you're going to see people really change their plans. It's you can't keep spending money irresponsibly. It's not going to happen moving forward.
One thing that I give Step so much credit for is the fact that oftentimes the first line item to get cut is marketing spend. And so because you've partnered with very trusted sources for the next generation, your customer acquisition costs are much lower than that of maybe a traditional fintech that hasn't identified who are the thought leaders and trusted sources for information and haven't really built a community around the product, or it's harder to build a community around the product. Can you tell us a little bit more about, how your strategy around community building or working with influencers or trusted sources for information has evolved since you've started?
Yeah, it's evolved in the sense that, first of all, the world's changed. A lot more people have taken notice to, influencers and creators. But like I said, we really wanted to lean into culture, and we really wanted to connect with our user base. And, for us, it's where are they, and it's social media. And so, we've got an entire content team in-house that is creating content for social media, that is creating content on YouTube. And some of it's educational and some of it's brand building. But it's not normal for a financial service company to have a content team that's, cranking out TikToks and Instagrams posts. But it's something that, we believe is really important to connect with our user base and to educate them. And so we try to make it fun, we try to make it engaging, and we try to make it organic. And when you do that, I think you're, much more successful in terms of connecting with your customer and your user base.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as an early stage investor, it's always hard. I think startups want to be as capital efficient as possible, and oftentimes writing, education, content, all of these things kind of take a back seat while you're focused on product and engineering. At what point did you start investing in content, building out the team? What are those inflection points that an early stage founder should look for?
Yeah, we started doing it early. For us, it was kind of the plan from day one was to lean into it and to, again, we did a partnership with Charli D'Amelio before we launched. So not knowing, whether we'd have product market fit, not knowing what the response was going to be from the marketplace, we went all in and leaned into the largest, influencer out there that was within our demographic. So that's how important it was for us. And, we got over 1 million customers on our platform in the first 6 months.
Yeah.
We had over 2 million customers on our platform in the first year. So we grew relatively rapidly compared to a lot of financial service companies. And, for us, we weren't necessarily set up to handle that type of volume because, we surprised ourselves with how, successful we were out of the gates. But it's a journey, and at the end of the day, I think you need to know your business, you need to know your demographic, better than anybody.
Yeah, and that's insane, by the way. It's very hard to work with influencers and celebrities and to specifically work with them pre-launch or pre-revenue. I think in today's world, fast forward to where we are today, any sort of influencer or talent involvement, they want to pull in their agent, they want to invest in the company, they want advisor shares, they want cash comp on top of advisor shares. So that's such a unique insight to have, well before it's become more of a cultural norm in Silicon Valley. When you think about, the next generation, your ability, I mean, you spotted Charlie early. Are there certain fintech or financial influencers that you sort of have your eye on that you want to partner with in the future? Or how much calibration do you need to do to spot those folks before they become the next big thing?
It's a really good question. And, culture's constantly evolving, right? So you got to be aware of like trends can come and go fast. And so it's something where you've got to kind of live in the moment. And for us, like TikTok was really just getting started. Charlie was kind of just getting started on TikTok, so we leaned into her and the partnership. It could change very, very quickly. So I think it's hard to plan too far out. Yeah. You really kind of need to live in the moment of like what's happening in the world and what's relevant to your business. And so for us, we kind of just we're constantly looking for the right partners at the right time that believe in our mission, believe in our vision, and want to help bring it to life to millions and millions of people.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, and you've done an amazing job of doing that, of spotting trends, taking more opportunistic bets when you can. It's been awesome to see just your commitment to the next generation, which I think a lot of investors and a lot of startups claim to have that same commitment, but oftentimes the cap table or the marketing campaigns they're running or all of the various different aspects of the business don't really deliver on that. When you think about, all of the various product lines that you have and sort of the direction that you want to take it in the future, how do you think about building for the next generation from a product standpoint?
I think you really need to know your customer. One of the smartest things that I did very early on when I was thinking about this was I went out and started doing focus groups. I talked to parents, I talked to teens, I talked to families. I also, I went to the movie theater on Friday night at 6 p.m. for 3 months straight and was the creepy guy in the corner watching and observing teenagers at the movie theater. I went to Starbucks after school at 2:30 p.m. because after school, all the kids would hang out at Starbucks. And, if I was going to build a product and a brand for a demographic that I am not, I truly want to understand who my customer was. And it wasn't just about money, because I did want to understand, were they using cash or were they using a debit or credit card? I wanted to also understand what games they were playing, what music they were listening to, what brands they, wore or liked, what their favorite restaurant was, what the last, music show that they went to, because that's where we wanted to really lean into culture. So you really need to understand your customer base. And I went to the extent of, for 3 months straight, going to Starbucks and the movies to just, watch and observe so I could learn and then go build that into our product, build that into our brand.
Yeah, it's so smart, and that resonates with me a lot. I personally did 300 Gen Z interviews during the pandemic to understand where people are living, what are they currently working on, what do they want to do in the future. Like, I just wanted to understand what was happening, specifically for people that were starting their first job, many of them from their childhood bedroom. And I think there's no replacement for that. We did a survey off the back of that, and that's always helpful to have quantitative insights. But to jump on the phone and to hear how someone's day is going and to see how they live their lives is so impactful. And that's become the foundation of a lot of the education that we do on the Work Life blog and a lot of our events and programming, because to truly empower the next generation, I also recognize that I'm getting older and not younger, and so it's my job to really jump on the phone and understand how people are feeling about the future and even where they're at today.
100%.
So when you were doing some of those early interviews, well, firstly, you were doing those at the beginning. Are you still doing those today?
We are. Yeah, we talk to our customers every single day.
That's great. And how do you divide? Are there specific personas or cohorts of people that you've really honed in on?
I mean, for us, again, we've got two demographics that I talked about. We've got parents and we have teenagers, and they're very different. Our value prop to a teenager is instant access to money, Apple Pay, the ability to get their allowance, digitally, to learn, around financial literacy and education to help build positive credit. But they don't really care as much about learning or building positive credit. They just want access to money. The parents care about security, they care about stability, financial literacy, building credit. That's like the value prop to the parents. And so we've got two very different demographics and profiles that we need to build for from a product perspective and from a brand perspective. And we're very aware of that, so we're constantly talking to parents, we're constantly talking to teenagers and young adults to understand what their pain points are, so we can build that and it reflects into our product and our brand.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you've recently raised a large round of funding. Can you tell us a little bit about what's to come? Now that you've raised that money, there's stability, post-product market fit. Like, how do you think about scaling this out?
Yeah, look, I mean, I mentioned we want to control our own destiny. So, the company's very well capitalized. We've been very responsible and thoughtful about how we've built this over the course of the last 4 years. And, we want to be in a position where we can lean in on product and lean in on, our two biggest expenses are, people and marketing.
Yeah.
And marketing has gotten a lot more expensive to do. And we don't necessarily want to play the paid game against everybody else because that's not something that, we'll win at. So we want to execute and win around great product and building a great brand. And the ability to, have a well-funded machine that we can ultimately go out and lean into certain areas or products or features as we get more data is a position that we wanted to put ourselves in.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And how do you feel like the company culture has evolved over time?
It's hard because we started before the pandemic, but most of our existence has been during the pandemic. And, company culture is so important. And when we've got people scattered throughout the world, it's really hard to build some of those relationships and trust that, historically you've been able to do with an in-office environment. But we've leaned into it. It's afforded us the opportunity to hire people, all over the country.
Yeah.
So it's really given us the ability to hire, great people that historically we might not have been able to hire because they weren't local in a geographic area where we had an office.
Yeah, that's great. And I know we have quite a few founders in the room. How have your operating principles changed now that you've been working remotely, now that you're hiring and building out a distributed team? Like, what are some tactics and processes that you implemented internally to ensure that you're successful?
Yeah, I think you really have to over-communicate. I think a lot of things get lost in translation over Slack or email these days. We're so trained now to be on the go and very fast and instant across everything, where your tone is a lot tougher to read over a Slack message than it is sitting here face to face. So for us, it's really been over communicate. And something that I tell my team every single day is assume best intent.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to assume the wrong intent. But you should give someone the benefit of the doubt when you're on your team. And one of our core values is team first, because we can't do what we do without a great team. And so we really lean into our people and try to create an environment where they can grow and where they can thrive. And it's you want to create a place where it's not work. It's something that you're passionate about and that you love to do. And that's that we try to do every single day.
Yeah, that's great. That really resonates with me with, we invest at the earliest stages, and so I jump on closing calls for anyone that's joining a work-life company. And so when it's, early engineers, founding product designers, especially folks that are fresh out of school, I always ask, what are ways to be helpful, or how can I help you through this journey? And it's always interesting. The questions I get asked the most are very simple. How often do you check email? How often do you check Slack? How do I get in front of my manager? How do I structure good one-on-one? I think over-communicating during this time, especially knowing that people are joining remotely and knowing that some people have never worked in a traditional corporate environment, so they have no idea how the social norms typically operate inside of a company is super helpful.
I think, and nowadays with so many people being remote, you have to work at it. Like, you have to work to make sure that you're connecting with people, where before it was a little bit more organic, right? You could be walking through the kitchen and bump into someone and how was your weekend? And now you don't have those moments where you can connect with people, and I think you need to proactively work at it a little bit more. So there's some tools that we use to try to connect people, to try to spark conversations that might not happen with people that are virtual, to try to spark those conversations.
Yep, that makes a ton of sense. Well, for the founders in the audience, I know whether it's tech Twitter or reading mainstream headlines, times are getting much harder. So I would love to ask you for some advice as a founder that's been in the business for a while, as a founder that's built such a strong network with your peers. What are some things that founders can do to really make sure that they're setting their companies up for success at this time?
Yeah, look, again, the world's been very uncertain over the course of the last couple of years, and being a founder it's hard. And any company out there that says they haven't or don't face adversity or challenges is not being honest, because no matter how successful you are, in the early stages, as you know, like there's going to be so many obstacles and so many challenges that you have to overcome. You have to have the mentality that you're willing to go through a brick wall, and you have to, have the mentality that you are going to face adversity and challenges every single day. And I think it's how you respond to those challenges. I mean, so many people learn from failures, in order to not make the same mistake twice, or in order to grow as a person, as a leader. And I think you need to be able to, have that mentality. I think another really important fact for any leader out there is you need to understand and recognize what your strengths and your weaknesses are.
Yeah.
And, we all have our strengths and weaknesses. And, I think what great leaders do is they figure out how to patch holes, or they figure out how to surround people around them, that can lift them up and that can ultimately, fill some of the voids or gap that, might be in your day to day. That's hard to do.
Yeah.
It's hard to accept that, there's so many great people in the audience here. There's so many great companies out there, but it takes a team in order to be successful.
Yeah.
And I've played sports all my life. I'm very competitive. I have a desire to win, and you want to establish that foundation across your team very early on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and as an athlete, you have to take care of yourself.
You do.
How do you prioritize fitness and healthy eating and all of these things that keep you personally very strong?
It's hard, especially in Vegas. But I think you have to prioritize it, and everybody prioritizes different things in their lives, but, for me, it's taking care of myself, and that's mental wellness, that's, physical, wellness, and it's really, setting aside time for yourself, because we work so hard every single day. We're constantly connected, but I think it's important every now and then to, take a step back and make sure you reflect and are taking care of yourself as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It was great to catch up. Congrats on everything and taking the next step. Where can people find you? How can we stay in touch?
Find me on Twitter at CJ McDonald.
Awesome. And I'm at Bri Kimmel. It's nice to see you all. Thanks again for coming.
Thank you.
It's this or it's nothing if this all I got. Sound loud, I ain't going there. 2 shows and a mic check. Truth coming through jokes now.